Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Striker 45. This is the most popular of the two new weapons that were added in Season 2 because it looks like a UMP, but I have to let you know, this is technically not a UMP, but instead an LWRC SMG. They're very similar looking, but not exactly the same. All the gun guys wanted to make very sure that I clear up that, and it certainly doesn't perform quite like the old Modern Warfare 2 UMP that everybody really wants. It's similar, there are some similarities, no doubt, but it is ultimately a rather different weapon. We're going to be talking about its rate of fire first. The base rate of fire is 600 rounds per minute, which is a little bit slow for an SMG, but very average for weapons in general. The burst rate of fire is still 600 rounds per minute, so that doesn't change at all. However, there is a 150 millisecond delay between those bursts, so it will lower your overall rate of fire quite significantly, though I know some people have had some success putting it in single fire and kind of treating it like a DMR, but I really don't think that's what this weapon is made for. The Striker 45 damage profile is unusual, to say the least. It'll deal 55 damage to the head up close, which is a ton for an SMG, or even for a rifle in this game, decreasing down to 35 at range, which means it is always going to kill in 3 headshots for as big a map as I can test it on. I mean, ground war at 500 meters might be a little different. The chest is 34 to 22, and in this case, the chest and stomach are the same, and the limbs are 30 to 19. So as long as you're within the optimal range, it's a 3-shot kill to the chest, a lot like the old UMP45 from Modern Warfare 2. However, you can also put .45 hollow point rounds on this and make it a very different gun from a damage and rate of fire standpoint. The headshot damage goes up to 77 to 35. I kind of had to extrapolate this damage backwards to get this episode done in time with by scaling headshots compared to the other build of the gun. So these may not be perfectly accurate due to rounding, but I promise you it is going to 2 and 3 shot headshot all over this map at really crazy ranges, and if the enemies even hurt like a little bit, you're going to 1-shot headshot them. The damage is really, really absurd on this weapon. The chest and stomach is 48 damage per shot, down to 24 to distance, which is truly, that is just ludicrous for an SMG. That is just out of this world for this type of submachine gun. That is super high. And even when you're shooting somebody in the limbs, that's the hands, the arms, the feet, whatever, 43 to 22 damage. That is insane. That's still a 3-shot kill to the feet up close. There are very few guns in Modern Warfare that can do that, so it's got a lot of damage behind it, a lot of oomph, you know. The 3-shot ranges are a little bit lower than you would think, though. We spend a lot of time talking about 3-shot ranges. The base one is 20 meters, which is good for an SMG, but it's not like crazy compared to a rifle. When you put the 300 millimeter barrel on it, it only goes up to 21, so I didn't find that particularly useful. The 400 millimeter barrel goes up to 30, which is just like, that makes it really nice. That makes it like a proper assault rifle when you put that barrel on, but it does slow the weapon down a lot. And when you put on the 150 millimeter barrel, even though the game doesn't say it, you do lose some range and it goes down to 16 meters. The hollow points, when you put those on there, increase the range to 32 meters, and if you go for maximum, which is the hollow point rounds, the biggest barrel, and a monolithic suppressor, and everything you can think of, and just put it on the weapon, it has a 50 meter 3-shot kill range, which is absurd. There are a lot of assault rifles in Modern Warfare that cannot get a number like that, so it's kind of crazy to see. However, I do want to let you guys know that the time to kill on this weapon is exactly 200 milliseconds, which makes it a little bit kind of like middle of the park for submachine guns, if not slightly on the slower side. It has a slower time to kill than the MP5 or the BIZON, unless you get the 2-shot headshots. I think that's really what the developers in Modern Warfare had in mind when they nerfed the MP5 and the BIZON recently, to make them where they can't get the 2-shot headshots, because they wanted the UMP to be the 2-shotting machine, and I'm pretty sure that's what the burst fire is there for as well. I do want to point out that the base recoil on this weapon is higher than what you want in an SMG. It can be kitted to be very accurate, though. I initially used it thinking it was going to be like the Modern Warfare 2 UMP. It was just going to be very accurate, very lasery, and easy to handle. That turned out to not be the case. You have to kit this weapon to make it accurate. Otherwise, I found the recoil to be rather unpleasant, and I'm not a fan of the iron sights. Not big on that. I think I'm going to say the same thing for the Growl, but then again, I just don't like iron sights in general. Some good news for you. Today's video isn't sponsored by anyone or anything. It's just, that's not how the series is running anymore, but shout out to me. Follow me on Mixer if you want to see me make these in-depth episodes live. You can easily find the link down there in the description. It's where I stream. I know thousands of you used to watch me stream here on this channel when YouTube gaming was hot, and if any of you want to come back, I'm still up to the same old tricks. So let's talk about the Striker 45 aim down sights times. These are measured in milliseconds. The base is 200 milliseconds, which is actually pretty fast. That's good. You know, it's not slow. It's normal for an SMG. The 300mm barrel takes it up 2 frames to 233. 400 will be 250, so that's a bit of a slowdown, but not terrible. And the 150mm barrel only saves you a frame, and it drops you down to 183. The TAC laser is 183. The XRK stock, I measured no difference on, but it was a really close kind of split frame rounding. It's going to be a little bit less than 1 frame. 45 round mags do add 2 frames, bumping it up to 233. And the new FTAC G5 EXO weird little, you know, stock thing down there, or grip attachment, is basically the new stippled grip, is 183 as well, but that was another close one that was right on the line of 1 frame. So not super powerful. So let's talk about sprint out times, because these are a little bit more interesting. The base is 133, which is actually quite fast, even for a submachine gun. The FTAC G5 EXO is 116, and the 5mm laser is also 116, so these two turned out to be roughly equal. It's a little bit unusual. Typically, the 5mm laser is the one that really like dominates and you want to go for, but I measured them to be equally as good. But what really is really crazy about this weapon is its minimum times. The minimum aim down sights time is 133 milliseconds, which is extremely fast, and the minimum sprint out time is 83 milliseconds, which is also just ridiculously fast. There are very few weapons in Modern Warfare that get much more snappy than this, so I think that it's definitely worth your time to kit the Striker to be fast. You can kit it to be one of the fastest handling full auto weapons in Modern Warfare. It is ridiculously fast, but your recoil is going to be ridiculously bad when you do that. You kind of want to go for this, get up close and get the 2 headshots. You do have the option with this weapon of going the exact opposite direction and kitting it for long range, trying to get that 50-meter, you know, 2-shot kill or 2-headshot kill or whatever, and just really go for that. But when you do, it's going to be a rifle, effectively. It's going to handle like rifle. It's going to be really, really slow and generally unpleasant feeling. Reload time is 1.68 seconds. That's full. If you want the empty reload time, it's a little bit slower at 1.9 seconds. So a little bit on the slow side for SMGs. This makes this one a good candidate for sleight of hand. I kind of wish it was a little bit snappier, but it's not. One of the big downsides to the weapon is that the magazine is small at 25 rounds. Thankfully, it can be boosted up to 45 rounds, which is one of the most popular attachments on the Striker. And the downside to this, really less than, 25 rounds is plenty to kill people with this particular weapon, but it makes your ammo pool very, very small. You don't have a lot of total ammo, so it's difficult to go on streaks. Therefore, I think fully loaded or something like Scavenger can totally be worth it, but for most people, just putting on the bigger mag, it gives you a bigger mag for extended fights, and it fixes your ammo problem, so I don't think many people are going to go with the other options. When it comes down to my evaluation of the weapon, this is not the overall best weapon in Modern Warfare, despite being very interesting stat-wise. When you look at this gun just from a pure stats perspective, you've got one of the fastest potential handling SMGs in the game, one of the fastest or one of the longest range killing SMGs in the game with incredible accuracy and other things, but it's difficult to really optimize these for most normal engagements. I think that most players would be more comfortable with an MP7 or an MP5 if they were going for these close range engagements, or an M4 or some other kind of rifle if they were going for the long range engagements. And the way the weapon is set, you're kind of forced to choose one extreme or another. I think if you go with the balanced class, it's not quite as effective. It still works. It's not bad. Like, it's definitely doable. You can totally play with this, but it's challenging. It's just not particularly easy, and I don't think most people are going to perform very well with it, which is why I think I see a lot of people using the Growl. And your goal with this weapon, when you're playing with it, should be to get as many 2-shot headshot kills as possible. You should either be doing this at long range, because the range on this 2-shot headshot is incredible, especially with some attachments, or you should get in people's faces and 2-shot headshot them and absolutely delete them. I know that some of you may be able to make use of that 2-round burst for this purpose, but I would generally prefer full auto. It still kills in 2 headshots, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And I've got 2 classes to recommend for you. I'm going to recommend the balanced class. I like running the FTAC Void Grip. It helps a frame or so on your ADS, but it also shaves a lot off your sprint out time without revealing you like the laser does. You want to run a red dot sight so you can see what you're aiming at. Commando FOREGRIP helps make it a little bit more reliable or predictable. You want to run a 45 round mag so you don't run out of bullets, and you can run sleight of hand so that you reload faster as well. This allows you to maintain the majority of the range and time to kill on the gun with some slight boost to the ammo capacity, reload time, and the overall handling. I think this is a class that a lot of people can use, but the one that I think is probably a little bit more fun is the Headshot Rushing Maniac class. class. You want to put the 150mm barrel on this class, the XRK stock, which is, I know it doesn't help a lot, but it's your only choice, the void grip, the 5mW laser, and either some sort of optics or sleight of hand. You want that really fast grip, you want that stock, you just make this as fast as humanly possible, and once you've done that, your goal is to get up in people's faces and get the 2-headshot kill. And if you do that, it can be an extremely effective weapon. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to come back with the Grau assault rifle. Drifter out.